I love today's episode, and here's why. I have a lot of single girlfriends of all ages, really. But something I see, and I'm not nitpicking at them, this is not particularly about them, it's just that I'm around it, so I notice it. I feel like high value women settle a lot. And unfortunately, the older they get, the more apt they are to settle. But I'm not able to wrap my head around it. But then I think about, when I was single and I was in the dating world and how that was. So I kind of want to break this down for people. So this is for two people, two types of women. If you're in a relationship or married and things are just not perfect, or they could be better. Or two, this is for the single ladies who are just waiting for good enough to come around, or are thinking about giving that guy a chance that they know is not the one for them just because the clock is ticking. Both types of women are settling for less, whether you're single or in a relationship. Just the packaging looks different. Settling is not always a bad thing. It's not always a negative thing. But in terms of today, for this episode, for me, it's about settling for less. And that's what I'm talking about, high value women who have these careers, who have powered through, who have built something in their lives, built something of themselves, have overcome a lot. But then when it comes to their romantic lives, they are more than willing to settle for less than they deserve. And I'm sure nobody in your circle is talking about this. I'm sure your therapist is not telling this to your face. Your girlfriends aren't telling you. Your parents aren't telling you. Your coworkers are probably not telling you. And definitely not the man in question is telling you anything at this point. But you're a woman who has a passion, a career, has built something for herself, has a life for herself, is independent, is financially in a great spot, has a good circle of people around her. You're living your life, right? Whether you're married or you're single. What that shows me, and what I'm trying to get at here, is that you're not settling in all these other areas of your life, but you are settling in love. Why? So as I mentioned earlier, and I touched on this, there's two types of women that we're talking about, right? The one that's in a relationship and quietly shrinking herself to fit in. And then there's the other one who has everything in order, right? I know tons of women like this. They're like, everything in my life is perfect. Everything is great. I'm happy with everything. Except I just don't have that man, that husband, that boyfriend, that life partner whom I know I can feel safe and secure with and spend the rest of my life with. That's one part of my life that's still missing. So you want love. You want a partnership. You want a family. You want kids. You want a man who is financially stable or maybe doing better than you as well because you've worked so hard for what you have. But then there's a part of you that's just willing to settle with whatever comes along. You're willing to settle for good enough. And I have a lot of people in my life right now that I look around and just making a general statement where if he's semi good looking and has a decent bank account and wants kids, that's it. They're going to settle for that. And so I have a hard time. This is why I wanted to do this episode. You're not willing to settle in any other area of your life, and you have not. You've worked very hard to build what you have, but you're willing to settle in the one area of your life with one decision that literally could cost you everything. Here's the issue. Modern settling doesn't look like you're staying with somebody who treats you terribly, right? Like physical abuse, emotional abuse, cheating, lying, stealing, all those kinds of things. It's more subtle than that. It's more quiet than that. The settling that I'm talking about today is far more sophisticated, more invisible, and it's far more common amongst high achieving women. It looks like being someone who's fine, good enough, doesn't hurt you. He doesn't probe you, doesn't push. He's like, he's not doing those big things that I just listed earlier, right? He's not cheating on me. He has money. He wants kids at some point. But this guy also doesn't see you. He also doesn't respect you. He also doesn't have maybe the emotional capacity or bandwidth to sustain someone like yourself who's so high achieving. Okay, he has a good head on shoulders. He has a family. He has money. He wants kids. He's just good. So you feel comfortable with him. He's good enough on paper for you, but you don't feel alive. And for me, and I've said this before, that's a major red flag. I'm not saying that over time marriages and relationships they go from here and they kind of like steady out, they level out. That's natural progression of two humans co-creating a life together, okay? But I'm a big stickler on, in the beginning, in your dating phase, it's going to be the best that it's ever been. And you have to make sure that it is. Because if the sparks aren't there, if the chemistry is not there, if the values aren't matching and the morals aren't bad, if things are not their highest and best when you're dating in the beginning, then you're not going to have anything really good to come back to when things do get tough, which they will eventually. I read a quote that said, safe is not the same as loved, and busy is not the same as being fulfilled. And so I think what I'm trying to say is, why is there such a disconnect when high value, high achieving women know their worth because they've built this great life for themselves, but then they're willing to settle for less when it comes to one of the biggest decisions of their lives? I'm telling you, the person that you end up with, that's going to be the biggest decision of your life. That's going to affect your health, your mental and emotional health, your physical health, your financial health, your friends, your relationship with your family, future kids if you decide to have kids, your future goals and dreams and aspirations. You will change 100 times over the course of the next few years when you're with this person, or a lifetime. You have to be very sure that this is who you want to spend your life with, or this is the person you want to give a chance to that could potentially take 4 or 5 years of your life. Okay, I'm going to get into 5 reasons as to why I feel high achieving, high value women choose to settle for less. Most high achieving, high value women are used to performing, doing, giving, overextending, proving their self, proving their worth, usually in their professional lives, right? Or to their family members, depending on how they were raised. That pattern and that emotional programming, so to speak, parlays now into their love life. And so they think that they have to show up more, they have to give up more, and naturally, that's what they have to do when they are looking for a partner. So they expect less. They demand less of those men. They have less expectations. So to someone like myself on the outside, that starts to look like they're settling for less than they deserve. A woman like that is used to that dynamic because of the life that she's built that's required her to be a certain way. Now, in my opinion, you need a partner who can actually fill that in for you. If you are an overgiver, an overextender, an overachiever, then you need someone who sees that in you and says, who's giving to her? Who can balance that out? But because that dynamic is so programmed and so familiar to a woman like that, she thinks that if this is how she feels in her personal life, and she thinks she feels like that in her professional life, that's what's meant for her. And that's wrong. And that's where you have someone who's completely burnt out, gassed out from life, and completely unhappy, and one day wakes up, has money, has a career, has a husband, has kids, but is completely unfulfilled because all she's doing is giving. And she doesn't have a partner who's coming in and helping her balance that out. By the way, I'll take that a step further. That's on her to do that and learn that about herself. That's why I talk about mindset on the show. That's why I talk about self-reflection and looking at yourself from an outside perspective and saying, hey, where can I be better? Where can I evolve so that I am better for myself and for the people around me, and so that I attract better? Second reason, she has confused high standards with high tolerance. All right. We all know people like this in our lives where, again, they have it all. They do it all. They can be all. They're gorgeous. They're smart. They're sexy. They're intelligent. They're kind. They're funny. They're nice. But when you look at them and you look at their choice in men, you're like, what? The math is not mathing here. You're like going for that. You're going on a date with him. She married him. High achieving women, they don't marry up. They don't date up. Whereas when you see men, and maybe I'm making a blanket statement, I don't know, maybe not. I feel like you could have the most mediocre man and he's out here with a supermodel on his arm. They have this confidence of that they're not going to settle. They know what they want and they don't care. What I'm saying is, I feel like a man's perception is of like, why not? Most high value women, high achieving women, most, not all, you look at what they're with and it's just like, huh? The math is not mathing. And it's not all about physical looks, by the way. I'm talking about everything. That it just doesn't fit. We all have those friends. We all know those people. And so it just got me thinking, where is that like disconnection there? Like, why don't you think you could find your equal? Why don't you think that you could find maybe someone better than you that actually pushes you in a good way, in a positive way? Why are women so willing to settle? Most women willing to settle. for less. Even the mediocre guy who's settling for that woman, I'm not saying that what he's doing is this, but I'm just saying that he has at least enough confidence in him to be like, I can bag whatever I want. He at that point maybe doesn't want kids. He knows what he wants right then and there, and he's willing for that. But I feel like most women, high value, high achieving women are like, I will settle for XYZ for the rest of my life. Most of those guys are just thinking about that certain time period. It's fine. How is that detrimental to him? It's not. At least I don't see how that's detrimental to him, because he's only going to marry who is actually going to be good for him and fits his long life picture. If you don't want kids, he's going to write you off. If you can't travel the world with him and leave your job, he's going to write you off, right? So men date and marry based on what fits their picture. Whereas women will settle for less and say, oh, maybe he'll change his mind on kids, or maybe he'll do this, or that's good enough for me. And I think it comes from, by the way, the insecurity that society has put in most females' heads, and that is you are on a timeline, biologically speaking, or you are way too independent and you are way too successful. So any man, good man or great man, is going to be very turned off by that. So you end up settling for less. It ultimately comes down to how they feel about themselves. High achieving women are also very good at reframing things and repivoting very quickly, on the dime, on the spot. That's great in business and that's great in career. That's not good in your personal life. That's going to cost you. In love, I would say that is the most elegant form of self-betrayal that a woman could do. The third reason I believe that most high-achieving, high-value women settle for less, deep down, they don't fully believe that they're lovable as they are. I was in the same boat too, and I'll get to my story in a second. They value their worth with what I can do, how much I can prove, what I can make, what my titles are, what I bring to the table, and so forth. The version that we all see in the world sees is she's polished, she's capable, she's decorated, she's got degrees, she's got fancy titles, she has her own thing going on. But internally, us females are inherently softer creatures. We are. Am I lovable if I'm softer? Am I lovable if I say I want to stay home and I don't want to work anymore? Am I lovable if I want to soften my life and my personality and step into my feminine energy a little bit more? And that's very scary to self-reflect on. If you've been operating at that level for 15, 20 years, or maybe even more, 25 plus years, that's very scary to change overnight. You're settling for a mediocre relationship at this point. You're wondering if someone would even stay with you if your success disappeared. So you continue to diminish that feminine side of you because you're so used to living on the alpha side of things. But then there's the other part of it where a strong alpha man is not going to want a strong alpha woman. Is that what you want? Is that what's going to fulfill you in your romantic relationship? It might fulfill you in business, but is that going to fulfill you personally? And I'll go out on a limb and say I'm 99% sure that for most women, that's not going to be fulfilling. And that's what I mean by settling for less. In this capacity, in this scenario, settling here is not about low standards. Settling here is you don't want to do the work to look at yourself to actually admit what it is that you need at this point in your life out of a relationship, whether you're married or single or entertaining somebody at this moment. The fourth reason that I believe most women do this, her ambition intimidates the men who would actually match her, and she has started to believe that is her own problem to solve. And this is what I was alluding to in the last example. She's making herself seem small enough just to be chosen, just small enough. And that's what I mean by you're not speaking up into what you want. You would in business, but you're not doing it in your personal life for your romantic partner of who you would want for yourself. And the irony of all of this is those are exactly the men that you don't want in your life. The ones that you would play small for just to have them choose you. Also, there's a point I want to make here very quickly. Women and men do this. So I'm not singling anyone out, but since this is about women right now, you try to play the cool girl. You try to play the nice girl in the beginning, right? So you get chosen. I did it in other relationships for sure. Maybe when I was younger, much, much younger. It doesn't serve you. It doesn't serve anybody because that mask comes off eventually. You can't keep that facade up for too long. And to some extent, I find that high value, high performing women, most of them, not all of them, tend to do this. And I have friends who call it settling. I really do have friends who flat out say, listen, I will settle for XYZ at this point in my life. And for them, it's like, there's nothing else out there. And in my way, it's if you are this version of you, but it's really not you, and this is how you're attracting your guy, at some point this facade's going to come off and the real you is going to show. And he's still not going to be interested in you, and it'll be 5 years down the road. Oh my God, this fifth reason is so major. And I feel this one to my core. You guys, I have felt this single, I've felt this dating. I've even questioned it in my marriage before when things were rough. You're settling because you're afraid to start over. This is for the married ones or the ones in relationships, and you just know something's off. You might just be afraid to start over. You might be afraid to rock the boat. You might be questioning, oh, I'm X amount of age and who's going to want to be with me? Or why would I start all over again? Or I have to reinvent everything in my life that I've built for my finances, my work. Maybe you have kids involved. You naturally start to think about the life that I built is going to crumble if I walk away from this. For the single woman, the pool feels shallow, the dating pool. The clock is rushed, and everyone good is taken at this point. Both fears of both types of women leave the women walking into the arms of the wrong man. The question is never, can I afford to do this differently? The question is, can I afford to not do this at all? That's the real question. What is the price that you pay for staying in the long relationship too long? What is the price that you pay for settling for less than what you deserve or less than what you know you need and want to be happy and to be fulfilled? I want to take a moment to stop because, number one, it is not lost on me on how sensitive of a topic this could be for some women. I can only imagine if I was in the shoes of losing everything and I had to start all over and I was single, I could see some women right now being like, oh my God, all these things that Nina is saying, and they're coming up for you and it feels rough and it feels hard. There's no judgment here. We all go through things in life and we're all doing life for the first time. There's no rule book that was handed to us. So if you are someone in a relationship and some of what I'm saying is resonating with you, that's okay. And if you are single or you are entertaining somebody right now and things are resonating with you and it's making you feel anxious or like, oh my God, this episode is for me, and it's making you nervous, it shouldn't make you nervous. If anything, I want an open dialogue about this. I want women to feel comfortable talking about these things. And I want high achieving value women to be like, you know what? Whoa, I deserve better. Either way, I want these open, raw, honest conversations to come out. No judgment here. For a second, I want to speak directly to single women. Kids are not everything. If you are somebody who is a high value woman, high performing woman, and you've put all your time and energy and effort into building something, and you're independent, you have a life of your own, and now your clock is ticking, and you're in your 40s, and you're willing to settle for that partner or whomever that is, great. We all want that for each other. When you know, you do have an internal list of who you want to date. You do know who you want to be with. You know what's compatible with you. We all have desires for a reason. We all have opinions that are innate to us. But this guy looks good on paper for you, and this checklist of yours turns into more of practicality. Oh, now I'm 44. I'm 42. I'm 38. My clock is ticking. This one wants kids. He's the one I think I'm going to settle for. Whereas there might be someone else who's better for you, but he doesn't know if he wants kids yet or not. You see what I'm saying? You start to manipulate your likes and dislikes and your desires for what you want in a partner down to your checklist of things that are going to completely be out of your control. But you're making a decision on who you're going to be with the rest of your life, but you don't even know if you can have kids. You don't know if he can have kids, right? All because of a biological clock. And so I think that this, just like all the decisions that high-performing women make, methodical, tactic, I don't think logic always works when it comes to love. I don't think that methodology always serves us when it comes to relationships or soulmates or romantic partners that we want to be with in the long term. And I think that's what I'm asking of women. Tap into the more feminine side of you. Tap into the softer side of you. Have more empathy and compassion for yourself. I'm a great catch. Have more confidence in yourself. Have more confidence in your destiny. Know that your person is out there. Wanting children and having money, there's so much more that you need in a partner to have a successful, solid relationship that will stand the test of time. What you're signing up for when you're saying, I'm going to settle for this guy because he wants kids and my clock is ticking and he has money and he can provide and support. Kids multiply your problems. So if you're missing something in your relationship at the foundation of who you two are, kids are going to make that worse. They're going to make that harder. When you have to deal with his family and your family, but nothing is compatible, that's going to be tough. If he loses all his money tomorrow, that's going to be tough for you. Who are you married to now? Is that enough for you? Being married to somebody with money doesn't solve your problems. Believe me, because I've seen it. I'm not telling you guys to be unrealistic by any means. Stability matters. Shared values, shared morals, shared dreams and goals matter too. But those things have to exist alongside genuine compatibility and real emotion and real human connection between the two of you. You're not a biological clock with a luxury lifestyle. You're a whole woman. You are a human being with needs, and you deserve a whole love that will fulfill you. Do not let urgency force you into making a decision that wisdom never would have let you. Okay, so now this next part of this episode is going to be like, what can you guys do to actually stop settling for less? First thing would be radical honesty with yourself, really. If you are in a relationship, if you are married and you have family, you really need to take a step back and consider the pros and cons of continuing on in this relationship and what that looks like for you. Can you live with that? Can you not live with that? Is it healthy? Is it fulfilling? Is there a bit of a give and take going on? And I'm going to clarify that for you in a second. I'm married, so I can speak very well to this one. There comes a time in marriages when you realize they were checking every box for you, but then life happens. When you're building things together and you're creating a life together, whatever that is, and commingling family and friends and life and health issues and money issues and all these things that do happen to everyone at some point in their marriage. It absolutely happens. No one's immune to those problems. The easiest thing to do in those moments is blame your partner. The easiest thing to do in those moments is blame your marriage. You start to look for an escape route almost. However, there are times where if you get radically honest with yourself and step outside of that relationship and marriage and that person, you can say, you know what? He's changed, I've changed, things have changed. We've gone to therapy, we've done X, Y, Z, there's no coming back. And I'm here because I keep thinking it'll change. I'm staying because of my kids. I'm staying because of this. I'm staying because of that, right? Then comes the list of reasons you're staying. You're trying to justify it. And you start to find yourself fantasizing in TV shows, in movies, in books. And you secretly hope that this is what your partner would emulate for you. It's never going to happen. And then eventually, when years have gone by, you're like, wow, I'm very emotionally unfulfilled. My life is just a series of to-do lists at this point. And I am in my marriage or I'm in my relationship and it's just like, what about what I can do and what I can bring to the table, but there's nothing else connected to it. I would say you need to have a serious conversation with yourself. If you're single, same thing. Get radically honest with yourself as to why you keep attracting these clowns in your life. Maybe you are not clear or not in alignment with yourself. You want one thing, but you're settling for another. You desire something, but you're entertaining something else. There's your disconnect right there. And you're only going to recognize these things if you step back and become very honest with yourself. The second thing I would say you can do to help stop this loop is you have to do the inner work. You have to do the work. No one's going to do it for you. Even the perfect man could walk across in this room right now and you wouldn't even know, because you have to do the inner work. You can have all the affirmations, you can read all the books, you can go to all the counseling and therapy you want, but until you actually apply those things that you're learning and actually make habitual, real, tangible change, it's all useless. It's not going to work. You can become aware of things till the cows come home, but until you apply those in your daily life, it's all moot. The third thing I would say is raise your tolerance of being alone versus being with the wrong person. Being with the wrong person is much lonelier, and that mistake has a bigger price tag to pay for than being alone. Trust me on that. I have a story to share there. I started seriously dating when I was 18, I would say. And I'm going to preface this by one thing, but I do not believe that this defined me in any way. I just think it was a good bounce off place. My mom was very vocal since I was a young girl. I don't care if you get married. I don't even care when you get married. It has to be the right person. It's the most important decision you make of your life. And that was that. There was nothing else said about that to me. Not from my mom, not from my dad, okay? We just left it at that. Now, maybe that was somewhere in there, I don't know, but I also think I learned a lot from my friends around me at the time who were settling for clowns. I did it too, don't get me wrong, when I was like really young, like teenager. But you don't know anything, and that's not what I'm talking about. As I got older and had more experience dating, the more and more selective I became because I saw people around me sticking with the same people they were with, high school, college, and thereafter. And I saw the problems there, and I saw the disconnection there. I could see one growing and evolving. I could see the other being stale. I could see the friction. And at a young age, like that kind of stuff could scare you. And so I think it played well for me because I was just like, oh, I don't want that for myself. No, thank you. I was always the happier one. I was always free to do my own thing. So if I dated someone who was with somebody, it's like I really wanted to be. And that parlayed well into my adulthood. That parlayed to me in college, in law school, and thereafter. After my now husband and I had reconnected, there was a time frame. I was in my mid-20s. All my girlfriends were getting married. All my girlfriends got married 24, 25, something around there, 26. I was the one that was like, I just got out of law school. I got things to do. I have things to achieve for myself. But after him and I reconnected, I remember saying to him very explicitly, I need to be alone for a while. And he just got a relationship and I did too. And I was like, I need to be alone for a while. Now, most women would be like, you're stupid. You're dumb. He's going to find somebody else and you're forever going to regret this decision. I didn't see it like that. I saw it as I need to be alone and I need to naturally come to this feeling, not out of desperation, not out of need, not out of a biological clock, not because all my girlfriends are getting married, and certainly not out of the fear that I might lose him to somebody else if I don't jump on this wagon right now. I had to step back and become so sure that this door is for me that I chose to be alone for a very long time. And he respected that. And I told him, I'm like, you go date, go live your life, act like I don't even exist. I was in Pennsylvania, he was in St. Louis, and I really did just live my life. And I really did spend that time, I think it was almost a year, with no fear. And the more and more as time went on, I got so comfortable and I felt so strong as time went on during that year period, and so powerful, so confident, so comfortable in my skin. I am more than fine. And yes, this is the height of my career. This is the height of my financial independence. I felt no pressure. I was happy. And when I would hear my friends having their problems in their marriages or with their boyfriends or whatever the case, I was like, thank God I don't have that problem. And I was just in a really good place. Putting myself in that situation, exposing myself to that year's time and just walking straight into it dissolved all my fear. And my expectations of a partner thereafter were up here. And I remember there was a time my now husband also kind of was just like, hello, are you good now? Is it safe? And during that time period, I just remember really feeling like, I know what I want, and I'm not going to settle till I get exactly what I want. And he went from never wanting to leave his hometown to, I will move wherever you are in the world. So now I have this very clear expectation of what I would like in a partner. Not as the 16-year-old girl or 18-year-old girl or college girl. No, as someone who's living in the real world at this point and actually gave myself a break from all the noise. And I was learning from people around me at the time. I'm a sponge. I learn from other people, their lives, their stories, and not to my detriment, always to my benefit. Just because it happened to someone else doesn't mean it's going to happen to me, but I do take stock and take note. But yeah, everything just shifted at that point. And I have had that level of, I don't want to say expectation, but I've had that level of, this is what I expect. Not of my romantic partner or of my husband or of my boyfriend. This is what I expect for myself. This is what I deserve. That's on me to give me that. How? By making the right choice in who my life partner or who that guy is that I'm going to entertain to even date. to even be a boyfriend. That's on me. It's not on him. It's on you to choose the right person. You are responsible for choosing who comes into your life. Most men are telling you what they want and don't want. And if you're going to sit there and try to give excuses or settle for less, you're the one's going to be disappointed. But all along, you had the power and you had the control of making the decision of letting this person into your life to begin with. So now if you're let down for some reason, that's on you, not on them. Loneliness is very temporary. Don't be afraid of that. It's actually fun sometimes. But a lifetime of a lifetime of feeling emotionally unfulfilled, that has permanent, lasting, damaging effects on you. The fourth thing you can do to put a stop to all of this is let yourself fully be seen. Let's throw the armor down. Let's be vulnerable. Let's be human. Connect on a human level. Share your likes and dislikes. Don't trauma bond, but share those too. Open up a little bit. Just because you judge your self-worth or your parents did or people in your life judged you or put your worth to what you do and how much you make and what your titles are and all these fancy things doesn't mean that that's what you have to lead with, and doesn't mean that that person who's meant for you is going to love you for those things. You don't want them to love you for those things. You want them to love you for you. You want them to see you for who you are underneath all of those things. And the only way they're going to see that is if you let your guard down. I just want to close this out with some high-level thoughts here. Most high-performing, high-value women don't settle because they don't know better. They settle for less because knowing better versus choosing better requires two different skills. And they're not used to being vulnerable. They're not used to applying courage to something unknown that is so personal to them in their life, such as love. And that's the muscle that they have to learn how to practice. That's the muscle you have to learn how to practice more. And the only way to do that is by exposing yourself to making those tough calls of, I'm not going to go on a date with this guy. I'm not going to choose this person. No, this person is not good for me. Even though they're interested in me, this is not good for me in the long term. He checks my bare minimum boxes, but that's not going to be enough for me in the long term. You need to always remember to come back to yourself. You need to get grounded, and you need to remember that loneliness is temporary, but making a mistake of choosing the wrong partner in life will cost you your entire life. That'll be a very expensive mistake, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially, in every sense of the way.